criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good.
Oh, buddy. Whoo! What is going on, friends? David Vose here. Beautiful day. There's clouds overhead. It's like it's wanting to rain or sprinkle. Maybe a thunderstorm coming, but nothing yet. But it is keeping it a little cooler out there in the garden. I'm having a wonderful day, friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Friends, I'm showing you this, and I'm thinking that most of you are just like, either there's probably a lot of you that are, maybe not my subscribers so much, but I think a lot of people are really for Trump, even some people that watch my channel. And I understand some of that because I can understand the sentiment of people thinking, oh, Biden tried to destroy the country and all the terrorists and the gang members and the evil, and we got to do something. We need law and order. More police, more prisons, please. The problem is that when we told you several months or a year or so ago that Donald Trump could be the Antichrist and that the Great Tribulation is about to happen and that the AI is part of all of this and there's a big trick going on and we shouldn't believe it, that you're not going to get any salvation from these political guys and they run both parties, and we said that, and all of you are like, well, Trump's going to make the world better. He's not part of it. He's not one of them. He only went on the Epstein plane once or twice. Come on. He only diddled one girl, and that was in the back seat, and she might have been over 18. We don't know because we ain't never found out, right? He paid him off in a court case, and that's all we're going to hear about it. Now, maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. But even Elon Musk is saying it might be true. I definitely, myself personally, and I think many of you have seen a lot of video of Trump dancing and whispering into Epstein's ear. And I just saw Epstein talking about Trump, saying that he likes to be with girls and he can talk anybody into anything and he's the greatest salesman in the world. And basically, he's a big liar. He could just rip people off. That's what they're saying, but we don't want to look at it that way. He's like a used card salesman for the world CIA, KGB government, right? He's their guy. And so I was thinking about how this is far worse than the average person realizes. And it took me back, a few years back, to a time when the famous thingy began. And we can't talk a whole lot about it because we're just not allowed to. But it's over and we've all forgotten about it. When it happened, you'll just have to use your imagination as to what I'm talking about because, we really don't want to talk about too many things. You might get, right? Here's America. Yeah. Stand in line, soldier. Salute. We're all patriots here, dadgummit, Let's join the U.S. Army. And they'll give us money. We'll go over there to China. We'll be allowed to run around and shoot people, have guns. I really think a lot of police are being made into some kind of fiends, some kind of evil soldiers. They're not being taught to protect and serve. That's because I see the police and I know what they're doing. So I can tell you that they're not being trained to protect us or defend us or anything. They're being trained to harass us. They've got a quota, round up so many people under this quota or that quota every day because they need revenue. And they're also being taught to intimidate. Even though it's illegal, they must know that. But they walk over and they start telling you illegal things like you're not allowed to do that. It's under the law. You have to give me your name and your badge number. But it's not true. It's some kind of intimidation. The red and the white and the blue lights on the thing and the sirens, all designed to keep us in a state of terror. The United States government is the great terrorist. I guarantee it. So, when the thingy happened, it shocked me. I was walking in, I didn't know anything about it. I'm just walking through the Walmart parking lot. And just like any other time, I'm going into Walmart. I get to the door, it opens, and there's a guy right there at the door. Like, you know how Walmart always has this, some kind of a disabled person going, hello, how are you? Hello, let me see your receipt, you know. But this guy was saying, whoa, you've got to wear a mask to go in here. And I'm like, whoa, who that? What? And he's like, serious. And I'm like, well, then I won't shop here ever again. And he looks at me like, huh? Like I'm some kind of a crazy man. So I step away from the door and I'm watching all these people. And they're all wearing masks. They're all just, they don't know what's going on, but they're all just consenting and relenting. They're all cowards. They're all insane. Immediately, within 5 minutes, they've changed their mind. Whatever belief system they had, because of this intimidation, they now have convinced themselves that they love masks. And that we've got to do what we're told. Why, it may be an epidemic or something. So we've got to do what we're told. And they believe it now. You know, maybe if it was happening over in Russia, they'd be like, oh, those terrible communists. You know. They're coming to get us, right? But, oh, they're here, and they got us. And now you're like, oh, well, we've got to be gotten, you know. But I think this has gone way too far, all this getting and gotten. And I think they're just getting us because they already got us so much that we don't even know that we've been gotten. And we've gotten to a place where we don't even know what getting means or being got. But there you go. And it's going on right now, friends. I talk to people, I see people, and I see that there are a few people that are saying stuff like, well, I don't know what Trump's doing. Maybe it's the Antichrist. Maybe we're about to go into, you know, they'll say stuff like that. But they don't seem too worried. And I don't even think they really believe it. I don't think anybody believes anything's going to happen. I think everybody's just going to comply with whatever anyone ever says and get the mark upon their hand or their forehead or whatever. Nobody's going to question any of this. I don't think very many people questioned it, the thingy, or 9/11, until it kind of got unpopular and they decided to discontinue the PSYOP and then we're allowed to talk about it again or something a little bit. And then people became brave, you know, like I told you way back in 1942 that you shouldn't do that. And, you know, and I was for it even when I wasn't admitting that I was for it, you know. I hadn't publicly spoken out. I was just kind of lying to you at the time, right? But I really believed in it. And now that it's okay, you know, politically to say that I'm against it, now I can say I'm against it. And by the way, I've always been against it. Okay. That's what's happening. And most of you are not realizing that if this is what is going on right now, they're not doing this because they are such good Christians and they just can't wait till Jesus comes back and takes down all the political garbage and the lies and the churches and the religions and the rituals and the hate and the prisons and forgives everybody and loves everybody and sets up an eternal kingdom of grace and love. They don't want that. They're fighting Jesus and his kingdom. They're fighting our freedom. They're trying to keep it from us. They want you to have a permit before you do that, or get a license to do that, or breathe, or you pay for that air you're breathing or that water you're drinking, right? But what will you guys do when this news that Trump is deporting citizens and he's literally actively saying that he's going to take U.S. citizens, homegrowns, and if he declares you're teaching or doing something that's against the law of his regiment or his dispensation here, or administration, shall we say, I guess, then, I mean, remember how Reagan had his own law, like the Reagan doctrine, or the doctrines of devils, And I guess Bush had his own doctrine. Trump's got his own doctrine, which is take everybody to prison and never ask questions again about it, because we're going to control the Supreme Court, and we got to do it. There's some bad people out there. We got to bring law and order back to this country. So instead of just using law and order to get us back to law and order, we're going to tweak that a little bit and go against the Constitution, take people's rights away. We got to. Because there's 4 years of Biden that screwed everything up so bad that we've got to tear down this country and our Constitution. It's a little bit like the old NAZI guy with the salute thing, standing up there saying, give me 4 years and I promise you, that's all I ask. And I'll give you this country back great again. Basically, that's in some Germanic language, that's what he was saying, is that I want to make the homeland great again. And by the way, I've been noticing on Fox News and wherever I've been noticing it, everybody's saying some particular phrase now. Everybody's saying it. They're talking about the homeland. They keep using that word, the homeland, like this is the homeland, like they're acknowledging that they're doing the NAZI thing, where they called the fatherland and the motherland and the homeland and all of this thing. And they've now transferred that term, this patriotic feeling about the homeland and all of this, to America. Friends, things are getting crazy. It may take a little violence and a world war. Just let me do whatever I want like a dictator for 4 years, and I'll fix the country for you. So here's the thing. Did you believe that man that lived in Germany? And do you believe Trump that after 4 years he's going to hand us back the kingdom? Can anything good come from evil? Can you start murdering people and wipe out, say, 3/4 of the world population? And then those who remain, you can say, well, look, now it's a better world, so I guess it was worth it. All you guys get to live now, and you get all the resources, and all these hordes of people that were, useless eaters, they're gone. So the ends justifies the means. We don't need to give people rights or to have love, justice, right? The only justice we want is that we want more money. We want to be rich. We want to have control of the resources. We want to own Greenland and South America. We want everybody to just do what we say, make a lot of money. And in order to get there, so you can all be happy down here, is you're going to have to wear dog muzzle. Don't worry, it's only going to be for 4 years. You wear this dog muzzle and you give up all your rights. And if we send your children to El Salvador and claim that they're members of the gang, you have no rights of habeas corpus. You have no hearing. You have no due process at all. But if you trust Trump with all of your heart, it still wouldn't matter, because Trump can't be doing all of this. He's somewhere in an office in Washington or Mar-a-Lago. And he's not capable of knowing whether any of these people are innocent or guilty. He's trusting the police that are being trained in police training schools to intimidate and to bully. See, that's what's going on. They talk about the police like, oh, they're good for protecting us, and we've got to have more police because there's too many criminals. And we think, oh, yeah, they're protecting us. I think a lot of people that live in the cities like a lot of police because they want to feel safe. Because they're not addicted to drugs and they've got a little money and they got a business. And so, nothing's going to happen to them because they've joined the secret society and they know the handshake and it's all for one and one for all. And they're safe. They pay taxes. You pay a lot of taxes, you're famous, you're going to get due process. They ain't worried about it. You a Jehovah's Witness, don't worry about it. They got lawyers to get you out. You got friends. They're gonna do nothing bad to you. You a Mormon in the priesthood, you're an elder, you're in good standing, they'll come down there and bail you out. You ain't got no worries. You Catholic, don't worry about it. Right? If you're upstanding citizen of the Church of God, don't worry about it. But these poor homeless people, ain't nobody, there's no advocates for them. They just take them, round them up, and do whatever they want with them. This is disgusting. Human beings are suffering. Human beings are being manipulated. And you just heard with your own ears that Trump wants to do this to U.S. citizens. How many of you are still for Donald Trump? If you are, you really need to re-examine your heart and figure out whether or not you've got any integrity at all to what is right. And you're going to probably also realize, after you think about this for a little bit, that whatever's coming, if all of you people are for it and don't stand up now, then you'll deserve what you get when it gets here. I'm telling you, you've been warned. Everybody in this country, in the entire world, knows that hurting people is wrong. Abusing and torturing people is wrong. Going to war for the oil in some country to take their oil or their land or some trumped up reason. Taking all of the Palestinian peoples out of a land, torturing them, and then taking it over with another people that never lived there is wrong. But yet, it just keeps on going, doesn't it? It just keeps on happening. Why? Because all of y'all don't care. You don't care as long as you get food in your little cage and the bearings on that little wheel goes around and around aren't squeaking too bad. You want your satanic music so you can put your headphones on at night and drum out to some satanic lyrics. You want to paint your face with some dark gothic vampire garbage. You want to have all pleasure at any manner of hour or day, and you want it to be so extreme that it would offend most people, that you want to have the right, and you want freedom for the mafia and for the people addicting your children, for the Satanists. You want freedom of speech for Satanists. But you do not want to even understand what the actual Constitution is, what true freedom is, and how it really works. So I think it's already begun. I think we've seen enough already that people should be saying we are either in the Great Tribulation or we are at the brink. It's happening as we speak, and over the next few weeks or something. Because, when they took away your freedom, which didn't actually happen, you still had the right to refuse the thingy. But the intimidation was so crazy, and what was going on at the hospitals was just blowing my mind. So when that was going on, I thought, that's it, we're done. But looking back, I realized that It was a ploy just to see what we do and trying to get more control over all the pharmaceutical and doctors. And it was something that they were doing in preparation. And in reality, you didn't have to do it. But if they are going to take citizens and round them up without due process, which they are doing, and if that starts becoming rampant, I mean, if they're doing it, they're obviously going to do it more and more and more if we don't stop them, if nobody says anything. The fact that a U.S. president that is well loved and getting good scores, in the polls, he's high in the polls. Everybody loves him. But the fact that a man that everybody loves, that was voted in by a majority, is now saying he's going to take away our constitutional rights as a people. And even some of you are applauding it and the rest of are not saying anything. We're done. We're already gone. There's no more going back. Lot's wife has turned around and she's heading over the hill. So the President of the United States is using the term homegrowns. And there's a camera that he doesn't know is filming him. And he's having a meeting with El Salvadorian president. And supposedly he doesn't know he's on camera. He's kind of whispering. And he says, yeah, you need to build 5 more prisons, right? We're going to start giving you the homegrown citizens without due process. And they're laughing. That was staged. That was not an accident. They want you to see it. They want you to hear it. Because if you don't do anything or say anything now, you've agreed to it. Passive agreement. Which means that those who passively agree with this are still in Babylon, and they will partake of her plagues because they will share in her sin. So let me show you. Homegrowns. What does that mean? Well, the NPR says the homegrowns are next. Trump hopes to deport and jail U.S. citizens abroad. U.S. citizens abroad. That is a little scary. President Trump says his administration is actively exploring a proposal to detain U.S. citizens, send them to prisons in El Salvador. Speaking Monday, minutes before a press briefing alongside El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, Trump could be heard embracing the concept. The homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You've got to build about 5 more places, Trump said to Buckley. An apparent reference to prison space that would be needed in El Salvador to house U.S. citizens. El Salvador is already holding hundreds of people in a maximum security prison. They were flown from the United States in recent weeks after being detained for allegedly lacking legal status or having gang affiliations. Critics say many of those individuals were deported with limited or no due process, some in defiance of court orders by U.S. judges. Responding to Trump on Monday, Buckley suggested his country is prepared to incarcerate U.S. citizens. Yes, we've got space, El Salvador's president said. The proposal has drawn condemnation from some legal scholars who said it would represent an unprecedented encroachment of the civil liberties of the U.S. citizens. Wow. Is this some kind of a joke? It's obviously unconstitutional, obviously illegal. There's no authority in any U.S. law to deport U.S. citizens, and certainly not to imprison them in a foreign country, said David Beer of Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank based in Washington, D.C. The problem, of course, is Trump already has illegally deported hundreds of people by just not giving the courts an opportunity to stop him, Beyer added. I think that's the real fear now, that he's going to try to evade judicial review of deportations of U.S. citizens. Well, who's he deporting? Not everyone is voicing opposition to Trump's concept of detaining U.S. citizens and sending them overseas. NPR contacted 3 prominent conservative legal scholars. All declined to comment. We also contacted 3 conservative legal think tanks. 1 declined to comment, 2 others didn't respond. NPR could also find no instances of Republican lawmakers in the House or Senate commenting on the idea. I'd do it in a heartbeat. This isn't the first time this idea has come up since Trump took office. Posting on the social media platform X in February, El Salvador's Buckley and his country has offered the United States of America the opportunity to outsource part of its prison system. We're willing to take in only convicted criminals, including convicted U.S. citizens, into our mega prison, CCOT, in exchange for a fee, Buckley added, posting photographs and densely packed inmates crouched with hands on their heads. You see, this would be very difficult, not only because people don't have any due process, and you say, well, they're probably bad people, but that's just it. You can't just say they're probably bad people. They probably did bad things. We have to trust Trump. We don't trust people. We have a system whereby everyone has due process. If they're bad people, then they'll go to court and they'll be convicted. But even if you convicted someone, why would we send an American citizen to El Salvador where there are no, we make rules about how safe or how our prisons should be, whether they're too restrictive in this area, or where they have rights about getting their medications or whatever. So how is it that U.S. citizens are not under the laws and benefits of the United States in our Constitution? They can just be thrown out, even if they commit a crime. I get that. They commit a crime, but they don't lose necessarily because they commit a crime. They don't lose, or they're not supposed to lose, their rights not to be tortured or treated badly. And if they do torture or treat people badly in foreign prisons, then they would be able to get away with that. We wouldn't be able to go down there and monitor what they're doing. So I don't know what the point is of sending citizens to some other country. We could make prisons in this country, which I'm not for building prisons at all. I'm not for arresting and taking people away because they sold drugs and you're the one who hired them to sell the drugs to start with. Noriega was a CIA operative. But beyond all of that, you can't explain that to normal people. But beyond all of that, I think people understand that we have rules. Like, for instance, if the FDA says that food is poison, you think, okay, we're in America, it's safe. They're not going to feed us bad food. But what if they allow food from China that won't be under these rules, and that food is fake or poison, and no one knows? It goes under the radar. It's not under our law. Why would we allow that? If we're going to have laws in this country about safe food or certain rights and liberties that any citizen is supposed to have, and one of them is not to be convicted without some kind of judicial hearing and a trial by a jury of your peers. Now, if you take that away, that's a main part of the Constitution. If Trump is even thinking about doing such things, Lord only knows where his little mind's going to stop.
They demand they love you. They love what you do. I'm not for support. I want them to do, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. They said homegrowns are next. The homegrown. You got to build about 5 more places.
Now, I want to show you this because I know some of you will think, well, maybe it's not true. But I want you to think about this while I show you this. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it is. We don't know because they have not taken this man to court. And he has not had a right to object. Now, if the man did not come to this country illegally, And the only reason that they're sending him to a prison is because they said he was a member of a gang. But he says he's not, and his mother says he's not. Well, maybe his mother and him are lying. Maybe the Trump administration's lying. Maybe nobody cares. I think that people need to be proven guilty. They're innocent until proven guilty. Now, if you say, yeah, but they're not American citizens. Well, even somebody that's here on a visa or is allowed by the law, if they come over through the checkpoint there at the border, and supposedly they're allowed to stay here until a court date, then they're here illegally. And everybody here illegally ought to be under the same law. The rights that are offered to citizens should be offered to people that are here temporarily. And I don't think anyone should be just rounded up and taken to basically a concentration camp in El Salvador without even knowing really who they are, without proving anything. So maybe the person could be denied citizenship, or maybe our government could say, look, we don't want you to stay here. We've decided to turn down your application for a visa, or fine. But why then take them to a concentration camp? What's going on with this fetish that Trump seems to have, that he wants to send all these? I mean, he may think, oh, they're all criminals. He's going to get them, right? He's going to take them away into a concentration camp because they chose to join a gang, right? Well, you know, yeah, tough love sometimes works, but the problem is that if you have children, you're a father or a mother, you have 3 children, you don't know who did it. You can't just torture all your children until one of them says, hey, he did it, Johnny did it. Or, hey, maybe one of these kids aren't even your kids, they're from next door. They were just spending the night. Now you could just take them and export them to Guantanamo Bay. Well, they're not our kids, right? Maybe you could go talk to the neighbors, be neighborly. And if you say, hey, neighbor, your kid's a spy. He's an agitator. He was stealing our cookies in the cupboard, man. We got laws in this house. Maybe that's not your law. Wait a minute, isn't there universal rights too? Under the UN law? I mean, everybody has rights. The kid stole a cookie. Maybe, maybe not. We haven't even tried him. What about the parents' right to retrieve their children? Somebody's got to know whether the person's committed any crime. And there has to be jurisdiction and all of this. I guarantee that what Trump's doing is probably something they've always wanted to do, but they thought, well, if we just tell people we're going to start arresting people, they're going to say that's unconstitutional. So how does Trump get away with it? Well, have 4 years of people trying to persecute him, you know, and it tried to stop him from doing what the people wanted, and now they're bringing all these terrorists in, and we're tired of it, you know, and all these trans people, we're going to just round them all up. They allowed them to come over here. It was a farce. They were terrorists. We know it, but we haven't proved it. But we know it, and we're sick of it. And Biden did it, not because he's a good guy, but because he's trying to bring terrorists into the country to collapse the country. Well, as we showed, it probably is a plan that both sides are carrying out. One side does the bad stuff that we've got to counteract by doing some more bad stuff. This is their little plot. They bring in Biden for 4 years to make everybody upset and make us believe that there's... Remember, we kept hearing sleeper cells and terrorists are entering into the country. Were there? Well, if there were, we were hiring them. We were creating ISIS over there. We were creating the Taliban over there. And we created, as I've showed you guys, and I've done some videos on it recently, the CIA invented and finances and runs the cartel. And these gangs are all part of it. It's a plot. But this says the last time that Dallas Chirinos Polanco heard from her 25-year-old son was March 15th when he called her from El Val Immigration Detention Center in Texas. He thought he was coming home to Venezuela. Instead, that same day, he was put on a plane to the notorious Secot prison in El Salvador, a maximum security facility for terrorists and gang members where he has been held incommunicado ever since. He left Venezuela for a better future, and it turned into a nightmare. Chirinos Polanco said through a translator in the interview with The Independent from her home in Valencia, Venezuela. She used to speak daily with her son. She hasn't heard from him in over 85 days. Being sent away so soon wasn't what Esquivel Peñalosa had hoped for when he arrived in U.S. last September. Passing legally through California's San Ysidro border crossing, after barely surviving a journey through the Darien Gap in the Panamanian jungle. The plan was to earn money to send back home. He joined a friend in Raleigh, North Carolina. He found work as a gardener and Uber driver, according to his family and lawyer. Uber said it did not have a record of Peñalosa working for the company. Since he was a teenager, Peñalosa was a past employer from Chile, described as honorable and hardworking. In a support video, had worked to pay for his younger sister's education. His wages in America allowed him to send enough money back home to fund a semester of her training to be a physical therapist. The 25-year-old temporary stint in the U.S. was cut short in February when the immigration agents detained him and his friend Arturo Saros, a Venezuelan singer who uses a stage name Sares Zla, as they filmed a music video. Peñalosa had entered the U.S. legally using the CBP One app, which allowed him to remain in the country temporarily as he awaited an April court date. But he and Sares were among the more than 100 Venezuelans that the administration eventually accused of being members of Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang, using the Wartime Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to summarily deport the men from the U.S. without letting them challenge their removals in court. Peñalosa's mother said her son has never had anything to do with the gang and was too committed to his work to ever get into trouble. Now, from what I'm reading here, I would believe this woman if she told me that, although I'm just reading it and I don't know her. But this is the thing, friends. I understand that there might be people hiding and manipulating things, and they're trying to keep terrorists coming in, and we've talked about all that. But at this point, we can't just trust that the government now has a new power to just take people, even citizens, and just deport them. Or people here legally or citizens. So people born in this country, see, this is where it's moving. It's not, they're not doing this because they don't like terrorists. The idea is to bring their terrorists over here, pay them to do what they're doing, pay them to burn down the cities and so forth. And then never look into who's financing any of this and take them out because they're all in on together. It's just taken out on these poor Venezuelans. How much more do these poor Venezuelan people have to go through? Their entire country was taken down. All their young teenage women were all raped and pillaged. Literally. Most of them have all been raped and abused. And the men went into some kind of slavery. They paid them to go into some army. They didn't have any other food. So, you say, well, they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have taken the money. They shouldn't have gotten involved in a gang. Well, we don't know that this man was involved in a gang. We don't know if any of them are actually in gangs or whether they're being forced to say they're in a gang just to get out of the country so they can get free, or what's going on. We don't really even know. Nobody's even told us. Nobody even realizes that whatever's going on with these people down there in El Salvador and Venezuela and these places was brought upon them by the CIA and this chaos, this stuff that they're doing in America, not as well, because there is news here, and we do have people exposing what goes on here. We don't know everything that's going on in Venezuela. We just know that it had this fall and everybody, the whole government collapsed and some dictator. And what we don't realize is these dictators are sent in by CIA and KGB and whatever they're doing. And these poor people aren't evil people. They're just children of the Lord being raped and pillaged one way or the other. You can, on paper, make these people sound like terrible people. And I'm not saying that some of them aren't. I don't know these people, although I don't believe in my heart that anyone's terrible. I think the only reason for there being gangs and armies and police is because of the manipulation that we're given war against our will, whatever country we might live in. Our countries go into anarchy. We start getting hungry. Bad people come in and murder our wives and children. At that point, you can't blame anybody for doing anything. Maybe they joined the gang to get back at the guys that killed their mother. We don't even know what this is all about. All we know is gang. Right? Oh, they're selling drugs, those darn kids. Well, they're being hired. Some of them take it as a job. They're displaced. They don't even know who they are or what they're doing. They were made to become addicted. I mean, okay, so they weren't citizens of America, but they're still being abused, all of them. Nobody in their right mind decides to, just decide, hey, I'm going to be making a gang and we're going to act like idiots and run around and murder people and try to bring drugs into the country. None of this is going on because people are bad. All this is going on because of the mafia that runs this world, which is the governments, the shadow governments, which we call the CIA, FBI, the KGB, and all of these organizations that were financed and put, kind of under the rug. We don't even know what these companies are doing. We're always told that the CIA is really good, but we don't realize that they're just paid mafia. We do not know the evil that is happening right now in our government. Now, as long as the evil is checked by some kind of law where you're not allowed to just arrest people without taking them to court. I mean, even if they took them to court, I don't trust the process. I get that. But if we're going to go a step further now and just start rounding people up and sending them to concentration camps, then we are in the Great Tribulation. It has begun. Even Fox News is saying this is going on. Trump is open to sending violent American criminals to El Salvador prisons. We are looking into it. I would love to do that, Trump said, of sending homegrown offenders to El Salvador.
He's made it a very safe place. People go and they feel very secure and safe. He's also built one, but other also prisons, very big ones, and we're using his system because we're getting rid of our criminals from out of the United States who were allowed to come in by Biden. We're getting them out. And the president is helping us with that, President Bukele. So I was very impressed with him, really very impressed. Great guy.
Could we use it for violent criminals, our own violent criminals?
I call them homegrown criminals.
Yes.
I mean, the homegrown.
The homegrowns.
The ones that grew up and something went wrong and they hit people over the head with a baseball bat. We have, and push people into subways just before the train gets there, like you see happening sometimes. We are looking into it and we want to do it. I would love to do that.
Well, there you have it. Doopity beep beep beep. That's the news for today. I think I'll just leave her there. I got a couple of more things to do and the sun's going down, so I got to get this loaded. Well, guys, I really hope you have a wonderful evening. And the Lord will bless you. That's one thing for sure. We always know that the Lord's on our side. So I'll bid you adieu. You guys, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.